Welcome to the Construction Pals podcast, brought to you by BlueTape, your source for the latest in the construction world. Hard hats off, headphones on, and let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Construction Pals, where we bring together industry experts and community members to talk about all of the important issues in the construction industry. In our next episode, we will have a roundtable discussion with Brad Rollo, CEO and co-founder of GoFor, aimed at creating the best delivery experience possible, built by construction professionals for construction professionals, and leveraging a high-tech background and unique insights from many years of firsthand experience, witnessing material shortfalls that building and construction professionals experience. That was really the core driver. And Brad, I gotta say, really happy and pleased to have you with us. I'm looking forward to a dynamic discussion. And I really wanna begin with just kind of an overview, a high level of you and why you decided to create GoFor Delivers. And what was that moment that inspired you, keeping in mind that great moments are born from great opportunities. And clearly these opportunities were paved, by your past and prior leadership ventures. So thanks again for being here, and look forward to learning a little more about you and your venture.
Yeah, well, thanks for the invite. Happy to be here. Yeah, my background is, as you kind of alluded to, it's a little bit of a strange background from what you typically see in tech or construction. It's a mixture of construction and technology. Construction is something I did in my summer jobs and between jobs for the longest time. Also graduating in the 90s with a degree in arts and geography. Probably didn't lead into an easy job at the time, so I went into construction. I did that for a bunch of years before getting into geographical information systems and eventually technology, where I was a product manager through the .com days. And then, kind of went through that, saw that kind of interesting time periods, working with some of the biggest companies around. Went to a couple other startups after that before, in about circa 2005, starting my own construction company. And the genesis of GoFor, ran that for 10 years. The genesis of GoFor was me solving my biggest pain point as the owner operator of a construction company. And that's, how do you get something from A to B in a quick and efficient manner? You kind of go through the different problems, right? Dealing with it different ways. You start doing it yourself, and then you realize as the owner operator, you're just a GoFor. You're driving around, spending all your time in your truck. You push it on to your employees to do it, and you realize that they're gone for 2 hours. They forget half the stuff that they're supposed to bring. And there's always this magical moment where, everybody on the job site, as the guy's leaving the pickup, gets a text from everybody on the job site saying, "Can you get coffee?" Right? And then it's a magical how everybody who sent that text asking for coffee thinks he's already got the coffee, he's on his way back. So they stop their job and sit down and wait for the coffee to show up. So you can imagine the amount of lost money and productivity by doing it yourself, with your employees. And then the third option we looked at was that you pushed it off to your suppliers and your retailers to do that delivery. And each one of those will have a fleet, right? And those fleets have a capacity every day. And if if they do 4 trucks and maybe 32 deliveries a day, if you're order 33 for that day, you're pushed into the future. And in construction, timely delivery of materials is key to keeping sites productive and moving forward. And so we realized that, for retailers as well as construction, by saying no or not being able to do that urgent delivery, that was either lost revenue or lost revenue for everybody. And so that's where GoFor is born, just to solve that biggest pain point, because there was nothing at the time when we launched this in 2000. Well, we started on napkin in 2015. There was nothing out there at all addressing the need in the industry.
Yeah, and Brad, on that note too, it sounds like, right, it's always tempting. And I use this quote often, especially in the industry: if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail. And with your background and in the construction space, we know it's about getting around the obstacles that are presented to you and to others. So in that vein, right, as you started to develop this platform and come up with this right-sized solution for your core customers, what were some of the initial challenges you faced when it came to product adoption in the core market?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge we ever faced was that everybody kind of recognized the need for this, but everybody else had done it the way they've always done it. And that's so typical in construction, right? I've done it this way. Why would I change? And, getting over that hump, whether it was the contractor doing it the way they always did it, or sending a guy or doing it themselves, or the supplier saying, yeah, I'm okay with pushing a delivery off to the future. It was a lot of, we had a lot of education in the early days to get over, right? That was probably the biggest obstacle we faced for sure.
Got it. And what do you perceive are some of the greatest challenges in distribution and supply chain in the construction industry today?
Yeah, you're seeing the challenges around, two sides of the equation, right? You got your contractors who have their challenges, and you have the retailers who have their challenges, right? The retailers have their vehicles. And if I got one truck, eventually my volume of deliveries start to catch up to that truck. And then once it gets past it, I buy a second truck. And then you're in a never ending step effect, right? Constantly spending capital expense to add these vehicles. Furthermore, these vehicles really are loss leaders to all suppliers and retailers in the construction space, right? Your capacity utilization on the vehicle is only about 40-50%. In other words, it goes out full one way, comes back empty the other way, right? So to break even or to make money on that deal, you have to charge a lot more than you actually do. The problem in construction is all contractors, we all know what we should be charging for delivery, right? It's really well set in every market. Everybody charges and within a few dollars the same price points on the vehicles, right? And so you can't charge, so for a flatbed Moffett, you might pay $125 for that delivery typically, but that the retailer really should be charging $250 with the capacity utilization issue there, right? So you're never charging enough for it. With GoFor, we first of all, we take off that scaling effect, right? So you don't have to worry about scaling up with vehicles with us, right? We will always add up, we'll scale as you need. But then even more importantly, when you hit the down season, you don't have to park vehicles that are just sitting there losing money and lay off employees. We scale down with you to match that demand as well. And then the fact that we can keep our fleets busy at a capacity utilization of over 80%, that means we can bring that cost of delivery down into the realm where contractors want to see it, right? And then our drivers are still making a great living. On the contractor equation, you have to find a way to get materials to a job site and keep that job site stocked with materials all the time, right? And there's no telling how your employees may use the last 100 2x4s. I've left job sites before when I ran my construction company where you had enough material for the day, but then your lead carpenter decided, we need to build scaffolding to get ready to put on the roof trusses and stuff like that. And then suddenly there goes your lumber and no productivity gained for that day. And you got to get the next 2x4s to job site in a quick and efficient manner, right? To keep that crews busy. And so when you look at in the market, you can rely on the fleet, on a retailer's existing fleets, but you got to worry about their capacity, right? Getting that order in the right time and get it on the job site. You can do it yourself, but as an owner operator, or project manager, or superintendent at a construction site, you have more important duties which actually affect the bottom line. You can send an employee, but that employee is going to be gone for 2 hours and it's going to cost you $150, which is, if you're doing a cargo van delivery, typically what you send an employee for, that's 3 times what you would pay GoFor, right? So you're constantly in this balance of how do I get something to a job site quickly and doing it in an effective manner. And if you rewound us to 2015, when I kind of left the construction world to start GoFor, there was actually no solutions out there to do that, right? You had to rely on your team, your vehicle, or the retailer.
And that's interesting you say that, right? Because if you think about, in particular, the United States, over the last couple of decades, right? We have fetishized efficiency at the expense of investing in resilience. We've become more digital, virtual, asset light. It's a just-in-time economy. It's been great for profit margins, but it's left many companies short on stuff, right? We've seen that this year, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, plants, equipment, and in some cases, inventory, strong shortages. This is going to change. There's a lot of bottlenecks, but what role, Brad, do you see technology, right, playing in this change here moving forward? And in particular, what are some of the cutting edge things that GoFor is doing, right, to be there? Whether that is data-driven decision-making, enhancing resilience, engaging with BIM modeling, et cetera. Would love to get your direct perspective on that, given the unique time that we are living through right now.
Yeah. So, I don't think there's an industry that's ever needed disruption through technology like construction has, right? It's been left in the 60s and 50s and how it operates. In fact, you kind of look at the opportunity to disrupt in the industry is very significant. Productivity in construction has actually been on a decline every year for the last 40 years, right? Despite the advances in tech, in equipment and that sort of thing, right? Technology has never been there because it has been very hard to adopt it. Now we have the mobile internet, right? Now you get devices and apps that you can put on a phone and bring to a job site. And there's a couple of platforms you work on, so it's much easier to build it out, right? You have displays that everybody can use. So that's really changed it and forced everybody to accelerate. I think as we go forward, you'll start to see that actually the construction industry regain some of the productivity it had lost back in the past years.
Yeah, and one of the big things too we've seen is, yes, there's all this technological progress, and you just hit on it, right? The need to switch between like a blue way of operating, being more innovative and forward thinking, and a red manner, a lot of execution, heavy processes. I mean, what are you seeing and hearing are some of the biggest stopgaps, right, or barriers for companies to adopt these new technology trends? And what are some of the tips that GoFor would give to industry players and customers to make it easier to kind of get on board and start to streamline the business more effectively?
Yeah, I think you had a lot of companies who wanted to use technology in the past years, right? And they got scared away because you get something like a Procore or GoFor or whatever else, whatever app you needed. But before, even time tracking was an issue, right? Everybody had a different phone. There was multiple versions of it. Nobody really had great data plans, right? So they were always not wanting to use it, that sort of thing. Right now, you fast forward to today, right? We have much better mobile internet technologies. We have unified platforms, and now with the advent of the use of API, you can see different solutions integrate with other solutions. Right, it gives you a much more seamless use of the technology across platforms when they can all link together. And I think that's what GoFor has always been. Is like everybody talks about us being a logistics or a last mile delivery company, but we're really a technology company, right? That provides delivery, that will use this technology to leverage it, right, as best possible, and then link it together amongst all the different applications or systems you're using. One case I like to draw is as we come out and we develop our service levels and our services is what we call right-in-time delivery. So you mentioned just-in-time. We like to talk about right-in-time. And, if you think of a large construction site that, has 12 gates and a crane that's moving from certain schedule to each gate, you want certain product to show up at certain gates at the right time. So you're not, double parked, you're not blocking traffic, the crane's not waiting there 20 minutes and pushing the schedule back. And so what we're doing is we're starting to build the technology around having that product there right at a certain time, and then being able to, because we've automated delivery, have that communication from our app or our platform into your building information management system, right, your BIM system, and to whatever you're using to manage the construction, so when certain things are going to be there, and really schedule it that way. So that's just some of the things, some of the disruption we're looking at bringing.
And Brad, on top of all that, right, to round out our discussion, a lot of times we say life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And this is where I want you to you could go nuts answering this question as we look to the future and the vision, in particular, logistics and distribution, right? There is a ton of talk right now about, of course, transition to EVs, right? Today, if you look at the United States, we're potentially looking at about $175 billion to go towards EV charging and the transition into carbon neutrality. Plus, you have the whole idea of self-driving trucks. And essentially what that does is it could make, for a more efficient operating on busy roads, to predict and analyze traffic. I mean, what are you hearing and seeing? I would just love to get your perspective on all these things that a lot of people read about, but they don't have the opportunity to talk to somebody like yourself who's touching the industry on a daily basis?
Yeah, I have some strong opinions about this, right? So I think EVs are critical, right? And with electric vehicles, it's the next step in delivery, right? They bring down the total cost of ownership for that owner operator of the vehicle. So now you can do a delivery still at at a great price point, but the owner operator can still bring home a great living. And I think that's a great transition. We hear a lot about autonomous vehicles, right? Autonomous vehicles in the last mile are a ways away, right? You still actually have to get a package or the delivery from the vehicle to the house or to the construction site and put it in the right spot. So in GoFor, and what we view and what we're starting to look at for the future is actually robotics. You see EVs, robotics followed eventually by AVs or even a drone delivery and stuff like that. But the robotics part is a key, right? What we want to do is find a way for that product to be easily unloaded at a job site, removing hopefully the human eventually. But actually right now in the near term, it's actually to allow a one person to do a two-man job. Provide them robotics that allows them to easily drop off 100 sheets of drywall in a garage, or provide them a robotics type dolly to transport up a fridge to the second floor of an apartment building, right? So one person can take a two-man job, and therefore your cost of delivery can continue to come down, but the amount that that driver makes is that much more. And then eventually I do see autonomous being there, but you'll always, again, still have to manage or use the robotics in some way. So there may be more piloting and maybe more involved in the routing part to take the pressure off the driver and let them worry about the delivery only.
Yeah, I like what you talk about here with robotics, right? I mean, we see it now. AI will make it possible for the internet to directly engage with people in the real world through robotics and drones. And we're seeing little machines that will do smart things by themselves. The inroads are there, and I think we're all very curious to see how this quickly transcends and moves forward over time. And Brad, I can't thank you enough. And just make sure I got this correctly, right? GoFor allows suppliers to service their customers better while cutting costs, creating transparency, and reducing mistakes through automation. And I know the LinkPal community is excited to continue to watch your platform thrive as it automatically outsources excess deliveries and suppresses delivery fleets that are fully booked. So it's an exciting time in the industry. We're going to continue to watch it. Just in closing, how can folks find you on social? Twitter handle, LinkedIn, website, anything you want to call out before we wrap up our session today?
You can obviously find it at GoForDelivers.com. We also have a 1-800 number, which is listed on the website. So we're happy to take phone calls as those who still like to use the old ways of communication are available. You can reach out to me at brad.rollo@GoForDelivers.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn under Brad Rollo as well. And I'm a heavy user of LinkedIn, so I'm pretty active on it.
Well, Brad, we'll let you get back to that beautiful weather over there. Enjoy it, and looking forward to having you back on the show in the near future.
Great. Well, thanks for your time. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for more episodes like this. For more information on Construction Pals podcast and BlueTape, please visit BlueTape.com.